What makes a good exploitation movie, and does Humanoids from the Deep successfully pull it off? Time to find out. Hit the button. Let's get started. Humanoids from the Deep. This is a film where scientific experiments backfire and produce horrific mutations, half man, half fish, which terrorize a small fishing village by killing the men and raping the women. Hey there, hi there, ho there, Andrew here, the horror host of Generations X, Y, and Z inside Davis Manor, where we find humor and horror, talking TV shows, movies, and haunts, and we're focusing on the second one, and much thanks goes to the awesome patron, Meixsell Lamson. Let me try and get that a little bit closer with less glare. This is called Humanoids from the Deep. This is what we are watching today. I obviously was thinking I saw this movie before, and I was wrong because I would remember this movie if I had seen it before. I mentioned patron before Meixsell's name because she is a patron of the channel. If you have no idea what a patron is or what a Patreon page is, go ahead and click the link above. You can go ahead and see, get a whole bunch of information. Basically, it is the best way that you can give back to the channel, help it grow, and then score some merchandise and get a vote in what I'm going to do in the future. But let's dive in. Oh, no, that's I don't know if I want to start with the puns this early. Anyways, let's go ahead and check out this sea creature horror flick. Humanoids from the Deep, also known as Monster in Europe and Japan, is a 1980 sci-fi monster flick directed by Barbara Peters with some uncredited help from Jimmy T. Murakami. The choice of bringing in a second director is due to the uncredited executive producer Roger Corman, who is the owner of New World Pictures, the company that distributed the film. And Corman felt that there needed to be a lot more uncensored TNA in this film because the rape scenes were filmed by Barbara Peters with a lot of shadows and cutaway shots. So we start the film off inside the small yet quaint fishing village of Noyo, California. Noyo is not a fictional town at all. It is an actual village inside California. Can we go ahead and get a picture of that? That's Odo from Deep Space Nine. Try again. That's Frodo from Lord of the Rings. Can you try a little harder now? Okay, I think Yoko Ono is about as best as we're going to get. Let's go. After introductions of some of the main characters, we get some nice B-roll footage of Noyo and the boats that travel through, and the music is bright and cheery kind of sound that reminds me of a John Williams score in Jaws. Funny enough, in true Roger Corman style, he introduces us to a new great talent making their debut, this time in the composing realm, and the talent is named James Horner. Now, if you have any idea who James Horner is, that just knocks your socks off. And if you have no idea who James Horner is, he's the person that did Avatar, Braveheart, Titanic, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, a lot of stuff. However, music, B-roll footage, and shots like a winch breaking weren't the only things that reminded me of Jaws. Vic Morrow, who plays Slattery, looks a lot like Quint. Actually, in this movie, you are going to see a lot of things that strictly rip off other films, but then maybe this is just part of the charm of a Roger Corman film. Almost 5 minutes into the movie, we are on Deke Jensen's boat, and he has caught something in his net. Deke is so excited about this because Noyo basically is getting no fish anymore in this fishing village. The audience, however, knows something bad is going to happen because we keep on getting hand shots like Creature from the Black Lagoon. And with the winch not having any gas in it because Deke's son would be more useful as chum. I mean, seriously, that kid didn't even put the cap back on when he was helping his dad. And then the boat pilot grabs a flare to go shoot in the air because the engine is out because, you know, they're stranded, when all of a sudden, whoa, that chum line was supposed to be a joke. Can we see that again? Ah, yes, it apparently was filmed in reverse, and with son Jackie, whom I will now affectionately call Augustus Glub Glub, just being killed, I am sure that Deke is going to regret the moment his wife finds out because she is going to blow up at him. Never mind, the boat blew up instead. In fact, that's how you know that this is a good exploitation film. We had a major explosion with multiple camera angles on there, and it's only 10 minutes into the film. After the explosion is witnessed by Jim Hill, played by Doug McClure, he talks to the sheriff, who does even less than what most sheriffs would do in a horror movie. Then Jim's dog Baron investigates a strange sound outside and finds one of the humanoids. This, of course, does not end well, but it ends in the death of Baron, which Jim just doesn't seem to be that much broken up about. Is that his acting range? Who knows? I mean, the acting in this movie is subpar at best, but that's what you can expect in a Roger Corman film, except for Vic Morrow. I enjoyed his stuff. And speaking of Vic Morrow, he played plays Hank Slattery, and Hank is the stock character type, a working, blue-collared, and racist guy, and I find this funny since Vic Morrow was almost typecast in this type of role, even though he grew up in a Jewish family. Slattery and some of the other town folk are not too keen on the Indian that lives in town called Johnny Eagle. Johnny Eagle? I guess that's a hip and trendy Native American name in the 1980s. But most town folk think that Johnny went around, killed all the dogs in retribution since the white man has taken over his land. And this subplot comes in during the 75th annual Noyo salmon, whatever that thing is. But this is also where we are introduced to some new characters that are pivotal to the plot.
Before Joe Williams and her Whitewater Boys get going again.
No, I was not talking about the band. But speaking of the band, why do I feel like they're a legit band? Yeah, because they were a legit band. The other major plot point that I'm referring to is what the president of the company Canco, original title by the way, is talking about with the help of Dr. Susan Drake. And one thing I can definitely say, this businessman is crooked. I mean, look at the way he's standing. He's physically crooked. But he tells the people of Noyo that Canco has the technology with Dr. Susan Drake to grow the salmon population and to make them bigger. Salmon? Salmon? The humanoids of the deep are salmon? I thought I was watching this for the halibut. Oh, that joke hurt me. The narrative of this film is interesting, even though Jim, our lead, is falling asleep during the exposition. It is your typical man creates creature by tempting with the laws of nature, but in true exploitation nature, we gotta end this scene with a fist fight. The next day, Slattery spies on Johnny Eagle and finds out that a lawsuit is pending, teens are making out on the beach, and Jim, with the Canco president and Dr. Susan Blake, go fishing.
It's a monster.
I swear I've heard an old man struggle like that before.
It's a monster.
Ugh, I can still remember the smell. Jerry and Peggy are now from beach to water when Jerry feels the need to scare Peggy once again because, that's what girls like. To be scared, senseless, pre-coitus. I mean, someone needs to drag him under the water and whoa! You telling me that worked again? I mean, somebody needs to go ahead and throw me money. Shucks. Well, what happened to the lovebirds? Jerry is killed and Peggy is violated, much the way that my eyes are being violated by this movie, but this is what the movie is all about. The monsters are here to do one thing, but maybe I should let the good doctor tell it in her own medical jargon.
It's my theory that these creatures are driven to mate with man now.
When she says man, she means man as in mankind, not mating man as in impregnating a man. I mean, because I've learned one thing in movies, and that is that you cannot impregnate a man. Shut up. Dr. Susan Blake goes ahead and explains that DNA 5 is the reason why these humanoids are growing and evolving the way that they are. It's pretty much the extent of it, too. They don't go far into it. I thought that she was a fish doctor, but now she's talking about DNA, and I'm wondering what type of doctor is she?
I'm a professional scientist.
Got me convinced. This film is a whirlwind of a movie. It has people and monsters getting stabbed, slashed, shot, set on fire, blown up, all while having a healthy dose of vitamin T and A, if you catch what I'm saying. The cast is led to different locations. They try and figure out things, what's going on. The humanoids are there, and what their agenda is finally comes to fruition. All of this comes to a huge climax. No, not Joe Williams and the Whitewater Boys again. Get them off the screen. I'm talking about the big climax when the townfolk and the humanoids meet in an all-out bloody battle. And no one is safe, not even the little kids.
Come on, reach up and give me a hand.
Come on, kid, grab his hand. If not that, at least grab the black wire that you're attached to and pull yourself up. The ending of the film is probably one of the most satisfying scenes as you get to see some of the carnage in the little town called Noyo. Still pushing the Noyo jokes, huh? Either way, I found this movie enjoyable because this is where we see plenty of blood and gore that you would expect in this type of movie. You also get to see things like man deciding to put the stomp down on these monsters. And that brings us to the danger zone. This is where I go ahead and I score out different categories and I give an overall rating of the film. Let's start off with the direction. The direction I give a 6. With every great shot that was done with this film, there is an equal terrible shot that just wasn't blocked out right. The acting, I give a 7, and that is due to Vic Morrow and Anthony Pina, who played Slattery and Johnny Eagle, respectively. They're the ones, with their tension and their story, elevated the acting in there. Otherwise, it would have been a much lower score. The narrative, I give a 9. This is near perfection. I really enjoyed the racial and social tension that was incorporated into a otherwise typical monster flick, and the idea to throw a sci-fi creature into a town that is desperate to get its own economy up and running is an enjoyable thing to see. The genre of this movie, which is an exploitation genre, is a 10. I mean, man, you cannot get exploitation films better than this. Like I've said before, there is stabbings, clubs to death, harpoon guns, regular guns. There's Molotov cocktails that are thrown that act like grenades. Ships are blowing up. Cars are blowing up. Houses are blowing up. I mean, everything is just over the top. It's great, all with some extra skin on the side. Definitely worth the 10. And that means we're going to enjoyment. The enjoyment, I score a 9. I do enjoy some cheesy monster movies when the monster suits are just as terrible as the acting. And this is not an elevated movie. It's just not. It knows what it is. It's not trying to be anything else, which makes it an enjoyable film for me to watch. That means that the rating overall is an 8.2. If you enjoy exploitation films and you haven't seen this one yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. You have to see that. This is a gem when it comes to that type of film. You dig up these type of movies and you just go, why have I not seen this one before? So if you haven't seen this movie, go and watch it. If you enjoy it, put it in your library. It's totally worth it. And speaking of libraries, thank you very much once again to Meixsell Lamson for sending me this film and expanding my library. She said that this is a film that she holds dear back in the days of the drive-in movie theaters, watching them with her friends like Wendy. And yes, Wendy, you got a shout out as well. Thank you for your support. And as always, after you hit that sub button, make sure you're part of the notification squad by clicking that bell icon so you get notified the moment that I upload. And I will see you in the next video.